Hello and welcome to Real Recollections,
the podcast where we revisit our favorite childhood entertainment and see if it holds up against our jaded adult lives. That's Jonah.
and that was Mary. And today we're covering Peter Pan.
Peter Pan! So Jonah, what do you remember or recollect about Peter Pan from your childhood?
This is definitely one of the movies that we watched more frequently when we were kids. So,
yeah.
I remember this was Aaron's favorite film and that he dressed up as Peter Pan.
Yes.
Quite a lot.
Well, did Mom make him a Peter Pan costume? I have like this memory of him in like green leaf thing that she made, and we had a hat, right? We had that costume forever.
Yeah, Mom made that, I think.
Yeah, I think
or
she
someone
did.
in our family did. I think it was Mom. And he got the hat from Disneyland because I remember it had the Mickey Mouse logo on the back.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Mom doesn't sew anymore.
No, yeah.
So it's weird to think about.
Yeah, she hasn't sewed in years.
I think she made me a costume too. I think I was a flower.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
We have a very talented mother.
That's true.
No, but probably like one of the standout things from my childhood that had to do with Peter Pan was we put on a child produced, written and performed neighborhood play. Do you remember that?
Oh my gosh, I remember this. Yeah, that was when we lived in Sandy. Yeah, so we there was an older boy he wasn't older than me. I think he was my age. And anyway, he was the director. And I don't remember a lot about it, except for that he was really like kind of a harsh director. I remember him like constantly firing all of us. Like every day he was like, "You're all fired."
You're fired!
You're fired!
Get out of my sight! I don't want to see you!
And then he's like, "Just kidding. Actually, we come back. Come be part of the play. But this time be better."
We need you to be... Yeah.
I don't think he ever said he needed me, but... Also, I was Wendy, and I'm pretty
Me
sure
neither.
the only thing I did was I came out and I cried over Peter Pan when he died, which... In retrospect, I don't even think we did the story right. But anyway, what do you remember about it?
No, I do... Correct me if I'm wrong, because I was pretty young, but I remember everybody wanted to walk the plank.
Yes.
So the entire cast ended up, like, all of the people playing pirates and everyone, they walked the plank at one point, and in my memory, I remember having, like, a full-sized pirate ship.
I can assure you that wasn't true.
In their driveway. I know that's not true, but when I imagine it, that's what it was.
Let me set the scene for you. Let me set the scene for you, Jonah. It was the neighbor boy's yard, and it was his driveway, his like long driveway.
Yeah, his I remember it was in the driveway.
Yeah, and then all of the parents were like sitting on the lawn in like, fold up chairs. And I remember they had a half pipe in their yard because they were like the cool family. And so like...
That's what it was. So they turned it, they had the back.
Oh, maybe they tried to make it look like a pirate ship. Maybe that's what you're remembering. Because I do know that we had the quote unquote Lost Boys that we added like last minute, which were Josh's... Oh, sorry. I probably shouldn't say anyone's names. I didn't say a last name. So
I'm sure they won't listen to the podcast. Yeah, it could be anyone. Let's just say the name that we're picking for this person may or may not be named Josh.
But he wasn't named that. I'm just making it up.
Now they won't forget it.
But anyway, so his brothers, last minute, they added to be like the older boys in the neighborhood, the Lost Boys, and they were all on like skateboards and bikes and stuff.
Which doesn't make sense.
None of it makes sense. None of it made sense.
Because the Lost Boys are supposed to, like, never grow up. They're,
I know.
Like, young. They're all young. Right. That's, like, the point. And the pirates are old. Anyways, yes, I also remember him being quite strict because so I have two main, like, moments where I can see the image in my brain. So I just remember in one rehearsal, I was laughing too much, and he said... You can't laugh so much. Here's a piece of paper. Go sit on the stairs outside, because we always practiced in their basement. in this one room. And he said, and write down on the piece of paper, I will not laugh 100 times.
Oh my gosh.
But I was 5. I was younger. I was 5 or younger. Well, I might have been 6.
How could you have written it?
I was 5 or 6. Exactly. I was terrible at writing. So first he taught me how to spell I will not laugh.
Oh my gosh.
And then I never finished during the rehearsal because I was such a slow writer.
I honestly don't remember you practicing with us.
Yeah, I think maybe because I didn't finish writing it, he kicked me out of the play.
Oh,
so I wasn't allowed to be in it anymore, and I had to stay at my house. I couldn't even watch because they knew that I would get up and ruin the play if I was there.
Oh my gosh.
It's always
I remember that there was like one of the neighborhood girls was supposed to play Tiger Lily, but like they got in a major fight like pretty soon before it started, and she like scratched someone's face. That's what I remember. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that, probably because I was home, but I really wanted to be there. So what I ended up doing was finding a costume in our costume bucket or whatever. It happened to be a Mulan costume that someone had worn for Halloween
Jonah
or something.
Jonah thought that would be the most appropriate for Peter Pan. This like,
and I ran up the street crying. I thought I could at least be one of the Buccaneers.
Well, it did I guess because it was the warrior Mulan, right? With like the green and the black.
It was like the warrior, yeah.
Yeah.
Warrior costume.
Jonah's not running up the street in a kimono, although that would have anyway.
That would have been a better story. That would have been a better story.
Oh, we should have let them imagine that then.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I remember, didn't we dance? We did like a dance routine at the end to like the song at the end of Shrek, All Star or whatever. Didn't we do like we all did a dance to that at the end, which by the way just makes it sound like madness. This whole play was madness.
It didn't make any sense. We did warn them it was child produced, written, and performed. So.
It's true. That's a memory.
Although they were persnickety enough to kick out a 5-year-old that just wanted to participate. So.
Children are cruel. Like I said, I don't even remember you practicing. Like in my mind, like you ran up the street in your Mulan outfit last minute and was like, I want to do this. And it was like, haven't even practiced with us. You're not in this play.
You know what? That's probably because every single time I went to practice, I probably laughed.
Probably.
And then I was kicked out and I had to write 100, I will not laugh.
It's just weird because I don't remember you in it. That's so funny.
I do remember like showing up to practice and I think I was never supposed to be a part of the play, maybe. And so no matter what I did, I ended up outside writing down some sentence.
Writing down something. Because they're like, you're not supposed to be in it.
A piece of paper.
Heidi was the crocodile, right?
I don't know. I don't remember. I was 5 or... I don't know. I can't remember what age I was.
I can't remember who everyone was. That's funny. Anyway, there you go. That's the other, and I don't really remember. I remember watching Peter Pan as a kid, and I just remember liking it. Obviously, we liked it. We helped to put on the play and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and our older brother Aaron, he liked it so much when he was a kid that at one point he jumped off of a chair or a sofa or something, and he was yelling, I can fly, and he fell right into the glass table.
Did it break?
I think so, but he was like miraculously not hurt.
Wow.
So there you go. That's a bit of a downer for all those kids out there. Guys, don't jump off stuff. Remember, you have to have pixie dust, you guys.
Mary, don't... Oh, yeah, you need pixie dust.
You need pixie dust, yeah.
Don't stomp on their dreams, though.
I'm just saying you need pixie dust. You got to find that first.
Okay, yeah. Don't let your dreams be dreams. Go find that pixie dust and make it happen.
You can do anything.
Well, that's how we remember Peter Pan, and here's how it was made.
But first, to catch you up, here's special guest star Anne with our plot in a pinch. Roll the camera, Sam.
When Wendy somehow catches Peter Pan's shadow in a drawer, she and her two brothers find themselves a part of one of their favorite stories, Peter Pan. After Wendy sews Peter's shadow back in place, 'cause that makes sense, he whisks them off to Neverland, where they will never have to grow up. However, soon after arriving on Neverland, they encounter troublesome buccaneers, alarming crocodiles, and strong-headed pixies. And all of a sudden, growing up doesn't seem so daunting. So, in the end, they all fly back home on a gold, magically floating pirate ship.
Thanks, Anne.
So... Oh, go ahead.
Okay. It's, of course, based on the book by J.M. Barrie. And I love one of his quotes is that nothing very important ever happens to us after we are 12 years old. So no wonder he wrote the books he did, where no one grows up. How convenient.
Yeah. That's not a very true phrase, though. I don't think that.
It's a funny phrase, but I'm like, I would have hated my development to stop after 12. There's a lot of things I learned and, like, loved about myself after that.
Yeah. Although I did read, I watched this video on YouTube that was called The Dark Origins of Peter Pan.
Oh, goodness.
Like, and they say that J.M. Barrie was perhaps, well, there's evidence that says that he may have been a pedophile. So.
No! Jonah, no.
Yeah. It kind of ruins everything a little bit.
I'm not going to believe that, because people say that about the Alice in Wonderland guy too, but
okay, so here's what happened, though.
I'd have to read about it.
Okay, here's what happened, though. So his older brother died when he was 13 or 14. And his mother, one thing that his mother would always say is, like, at least he died young, so he died, like, innocent, and he'll always be young and innocent. And so he was quite young at the time. And so they think that he might have become sort of obsessed with youthfulness and innocence. Oh. And when he was an adult, he was really close friends with his family.
Well, yeah, I remember Finding Neverland talks about that a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
And he was especially close to the youngest son, and they have a letter that he wrote to him where he's like... He's like, I know I'm greasy and bent over, but I'm very fond of you. But don't tell anyone.
There's some red flags in there. Oh my gosh. Jonah, don't rip your hand. Well, actually... I'm sorry.
Well, yeah.
There's a lot of things.
There's other reasons why Peter Pan is ruined for us. But his redeeming act, though, is that at the end of his life, he gave the rights of his books to this children's hospital or orphanage.
Yeah.
So all the proceeds, all of the income that he would have gotten from those books went to those places, and they really benefited from them.
Well, yeah, Walt Disney had to get the rights from that place. Was where he had to get it from. Interesting. Yeah. But yeah, the book is quite a bit darker, I would say, than the Disney version. Bet you've never heard that before. So here's just some like things from the book just to give you a taste. So I read that Peter in the book believes that every time he takes a breath, an adult dies. And at one point he like increases his breathing to like make adults die faster, like, you know, that kind of thing. So that's delightful, especially now that I'm adult. And there's a quote. So apparently in the book also, it implies that when the Lost Boys get too big or too old, that Peter kills them off. It doesn't say kill necessarily, but this is the exact quote. So it says, the boys on the island vary, of course, in numbers, according as they get killed and so on. And when they seem to be growing up, which is against the rules, Peter thins them out. What does that mean? Anywho.
I wonder.
I have questions.
They really left it up to the imagination. Why is that crocodile so fat? You know?
And why are they such good friends? Why is he such good friends with Peter? You know, just saying.
Yeah.
But I think that partially comes from the fact that like Peter just is a kid and he doesn't super seem to get death. Because one of his famous quotes, of course, is, "To die would be an awfully big adventure." And that's what he says when he thinks Captain Hook's going to kill him. So maybe he just thinks he's, sending them on an adventure. Anywho, Walt actually saw Peter Pan when he was a kid, Walt Disney.
Yeah, and even more than... Well, so obviously seeing it left a big impact on him, but he was actually a part of a production of Peter Pan, just like us. No, not like us. It was more official. It was official because he actually flew on stage. He was hooked up to chorus. It was like a school production, which is crazy. Right? But they probably didn't have as many like safety regulations and stuff back then. So that definitely wouldn't happen now. But he flew on the stage. But during one of the performances, the rope broke or something went wrong.
Oh my gosh!
And he actually fell into the audience.
Oh my gosh!
I know.
Was anybody hurt? Or just like...
I don't know. They didn't say.
Bruises? Okay.
Yeah, I learned that Walt actually wrote an article about why he made Peter Pan, and that was part of the article. But he didn't say if anyone got hurt. He's like, yeah, actually I have brain damage now. I don't know.
And that's why I'm as crazy as I am. I know that
That's why I literally can't give up on my dreams.
I know that Walt, when he saw the play, it left such a big impression that he actually asked the actress that he saw portray Peter, Miss Adams, he asked her to come and watch an early reel of the movie, but she actually declined because she said that she had created a character in her mind that was like real flesh and blood, and that like any other creation would just be, as hollow as a ghost to her. Just actor stuff. Sounds like she got really into it.
That would have crushed me.
I know, I would have been
I was like,
okay.
This actor that like really influenced me when I was a kid, and then I think I'm doing something pretty cool, but she like rejects the very idea.
I know. She's like, no, I'm not doing that.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
And he didn't seem to take it personally, but I just thought that was interesting.
Wow. I mean, he probably doesn't need like this one random lady to tell him his movies are good. He's making like big old bucks. Well, not on the last movie he made, but he made... Yeah. Well, we'll talk about how much money that he made on this. But anyways, the storyboard was in classic Disney style. A very long process. Yep. They tried to make it was supposed to be their second film. Of course, it wouldn't be a history section if we didn't say this movie was supposed to be made at a different time. Or whatever. Anyways, I didn't actually find much about why they didn't end up making it at that time.
Because World War II hit.
Oh, that's what it was.
And oh, wait. I guess they hadn't lost money from that yet, but the World War II hit, and they were just worried about jumping into it, I think. Story-wise, because they hadn't fully developed it, but they were in the process of developing it.
It's interesting to think about how it would have been different if it had been made at that time.
Well, we wouldn't have Skull Rock, right?
That's true.
Because that was a later creation.
Yeah.
But
Here are a few of the things that were on the storyboard, on the original storyboard, and things that they went through as they went along.
Yep. So, there's a couple of them. Some of them are kind of dark and interesting. One of them was that one of the earliest story concepts was that Peter would actually kidnap Wendy and take her to Neverland. Which I always wonder if that's not how they came up with like the Return to Neverland, the like straight to video one they did later. Anyway.
Oh, because he does kidnap her in that one, right?
Well, he doesn't, but Captain Hook does. Anyway, it's a whole thing. Yeah, and in some versions, Nana was a much bigger part. So, like, either Nana would come to Neverland with them, or there were some versions where Nana actually narrated the whole story, which could have been kind of an interesting version. And then there were some where John, the older brother, was left behind. You can see a storyboard where Peter looks into both John and Michael's dreams and sees that like John's just like dreaming about banks and like everything. And he's like, not him. He's not coming. And then he looks into Michael's dreams and it's like all adventures and, you know, that kind of thing, pirates. And he's like, he can come.
He can come.
He can come.
He's not boring.
He's not boring.
He's not too old. If I take John, I just have to kill him right away.
Yeah, he could grow up. I could be friends with him for a while. And then one of the other ones, which I think is really interesting, is at one point they were considering having Wendy have a picture book of, like, Peter Pan's story. Like, I don't know if she would have written it or if it was, like, the book on it. Anyway, but, like, she had this picture book with her throughout the story, and at one point she drops it, and Smee picks it up. And Smee's kind of reading it to Captain Hook and is like, hey, look, it's you, Captain, and shows him a picture of himself. And, you know, Captain Hook kind of like dismisses it, like, get that away from me. It's just a stupid picture book. And then, like, Smee keeps reading things out of the book. And one of the things he reads is he's like, and Peter Pan's hideaway is located. And Captain Hook's like, what are you saying? Give me that book right now. And so, like, he runs to get it from Smee, but Smee, of course, being Smee, like, fumbles the thing and drops it over the side of the boat. And then the crocodile comes and bites out the middle of the book where it was.
Classic Smee.
Classic Smee, classic Hook, classic crocodile. It's a deleted scene.
Yeah, that would have been fun. A little fun addition.
Maybe they didn't need it.
Yeah, it didn't need it, though.
Yeah.
That's probably what they decided. They're like, oh, that'd be fun. No, we're not going to do
that. I mean, there's a ton of these scenes. I mean, one, they even considered doing Peter's backstory where, like, he's a baby and he flies out of the nursery with the fairies and then, you know, it stays with them for a while in Neverland or wherever. And then when he flies back to his mom's window, there's a bar on the window and his mom's inside, like, with a baby, a new baby. It's really sad if you just, like, see moms don't wait and moms don't care and don't love you. And I'm like, no, your mom probably just thought you were dead, Peter. Goodness. Anyway.
Honestly, I could see something like that make you relate to Peter Pan's character a lot more. Because you're kind of like, he's such a brat, you know, sometimes.
He is. Well, he's like one of those kids who's like such a brat most of the time, and then every once in a while he does something like really sweet where you're like, oh, you do have a soul.
Yeah, he's exactly like that. Sorry, I keep clicking this pen and I'm sorry, everyone. I just put it away. I put the pen away.
He put it down. You just throw it against the wall, Jonah. Throw it away.
You will hear no more clickage out of me.
Amazing.
Yeah. So anyways, Mary Blair, of course, is the person of the Silver Age of Disney. And so she did the concept art for this film. And if it weren't for her, we wouldn't have had Skull Rock, which is, of course, awesome.
Yeah.
I wonder if it kind of inspired Skull from Winnie the Pooh's Grand Adventure.
I bet it did. Well, it's interesting too because like
Skull.
Yeah, but it's just interesting because, like, that skull idea, I don't think it's in the book. Because the way that people, anyway, way people were talking about it is, like, there was, like, a hideaway, like Captain Hook's hideaway, but, like, they didn't specify what it was. Anyway, but this, I don't know if I'm just talking crap right now, but they made it sound like Mary Blair invented Skull Rock when they talked about it.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then it's kind of pervaded every version of Peter Pan since.
Yeah.
You know?
So, the storyboarding, animation, everything, it ultimately took them 4 years to make. And it required 400 special effect sounds. And the flying scene where they're over London. So if you've listened to our previous episodes, you know what a multiplane camera is. Well, this particular scene required 20 layers of multiplane camera. So that means that they had 20 different paintings that were behind each other, and then they were filming through them as they moved around.
As they moved the characters around on them, right?
As they moved the characters through and the cameras through, because the camera moved through the...
Right.
Through the cartoon sets in a way.
That's so crazy. I wonder how many shots within that. There's got to be tons of shots within that. that they took.
I wish there was some story about it. Remember in Fantasia, they all fell asleep at one point, and then there was the earthquake.
I know. I wish they had that too.
No story.
I want to film. I want them showing like them doing it. Was it horizontal or was it like just a multiplane?
Oh, I'm sure it was horizontal multiplane.
Yeah, it seemed like they went on to that one.
I think they pretty much only used the vertical multiplane for
the earlier ones.
The first couple films. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. That's really interesting. Yeah, and it cost $400 million. Sorry, 400 million.
No,
wow.
4 million.
Wow, 4 million. I just wanted to really up the ante there. It cost 4 million to make the movie. Yeah, and Hans Conried. Anyway, he was he's one of the voice actors for the film. Just to kind of go on to those people. So he was actually a radio voice guy. And he voiced both Mr. Darling and Captain Hook. So they kept to the kind of tradition in the stage play of having the same actor do both parts.
One actor do both.
Yeah, which I think is really interesting because I think it's supposed to kind of represent that like adults are the enemies to childhood. You know what I mean? And kind of the father's the enemy to their childhood at home, and Captain Hook's kind of the enemy of it in Neverland. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and that, like, adulthood is, like, the end of adventure, too. Because, I mean, when Captain Hook captures all of them, what does he want them to do? He wants them to sign a contract to work for him on the Jolly Roger, right?
Yeah, it's true. Interesting. And as far as, like, the character of Captain Hook goes, he had a couple of animators that worked on him. One of them was Frank Thomas. And kind of like Cinderella, how they had two different opinions. Frank Thomas wanted him, I can't remember which one was which, but one of them wanted him to be fancy, kind of like a real posh guy. And one of them wanted him to be, like, more brutal and, like, you know, man the deck, you know, that kind of thing. And so they kind of went with like an in-between character, which I think makes Captain Hook really fun. He's both kind of the gentleman thing, but then he's also like shooting his crew, you know what I mean? So like it's kind of both. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Captain Hook is actually a really awesome character, and some of the voice acting things that he does, I think, are just really genius. I mean,
yeah,
there are very few as iconic characters in, in animation history, in Disney. Yeah.
I love that pirate show. Oh, gosh, I love him. Anyway.
The actor who played Peter Pan, his name was Bobby Driscoll, and he was actually in a lot of Disney's live-action films. He was in Treasure Island as well as others, but he actually had a pretty sad story.
Yeah, he did. He kind of... Well, he won Academy Awards when he was younger, so he won, like, I think it was 2 of them. He won Academy Awards. I think that was back when they had them for just child actors, so not just, like... I
think so, too.
He didn't beat out, like, Clark Gable or something. But he was a successful child actor, and he was used for a lot of things. He was kind of Disney's go-to kid. But when he got older, the studio was kind of sold to someone else, or... Sorry, I should have written down more details of this, but someone else was basically in charge of the casting and things. I think it's after Disney passed away. And they fired him. They're like, yeah, he's now a teenager and has acne and we don't want him. And so he got fired. Anyway, he just had a hard time finding work and he died kind of sad. You can go look that up. But the point is, he was Peter Pan and he did have some really successful things that he did. So when you see Bobby Driscoll, in Hollywood with the star and the handprints, you'll know who he is. You won't be like, who the heck's that?
So then one of the most beloved characters of all time, Tinkerbell.
Yeah.
So...
Oh, wait.
Tinkerbell...
I have one more thing on Peter Pan.
Oh, go ahead.
So one thing, Milt Kahl was in charge of... he was in charge of animating. There we go. I can say words. Peter. And one of the things that he said was the hardest, which I think is really interesting, is that it was really hard to capture his weightlessness and his like just floating in place. Not just flying, but like floating around kind of more casually was hard for him. And just like how he was. And one of the things...
Wasn't landing especially hard?
Huh?
Animating him landing was the hardest thing for him, wasn't it?
Too, I think. But he said that basically the way he solved it was he just always had Peter's upper body arrive first, with his lower body almost like catching up to him. So it gave kind of the impression of, you know, that he was willing it this way or that, you know?
Right.
So I just think that's really interesting that, I mean, he's one of the first people who had to think about, like, how does this actually look to have, like, just a hovering person?
Yeah. He was really disappointed, actually, to not have a more comic character like Captain Hook. I think he was hoping for the villain, and then he was sort of bored animating Wendy and Peter Pan. But I think it's interesting, because I don't really think of Peter Pan as a straight character.
No, he's not.
He's really bizarre and
you would think he'd be fun to animate.
So.
But
but I guess he's not as cartoony.
I guess. So. Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, can I move on to Tinkerbell now?
Yes, you can move on to Tinkerbell. I just wanted to say that.
Thanks for the permission. So, Tinkerbell, the gatekeeper of all things Disney. She draws the magic line over top of the castle before every film.
She brings you in through the river.
Tinkerbell's amazing.
Now, right?
She's what was it that the lady called her? She's the woman of today, or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's
what it was.
I think that's what Margaret Carey called her.
Margaret Carey, who is the person that Tinkerbell's animated off of. Yep. So a lot of people think that Tinkerbell's Tinkerbell was based off of Marilyn Monroe because of her curvaceous figure.
Oh my gosh.
But it's actually not true. It's just a myth, because Marilyn Monroe wasn't even that popular by this time. She had done like one or two things, but she was really she was an unknown actress, pretty much.
Yeah.
So she was based off of Margaret Carey, who is, you may ask, not a super well-known actress, is she?
No, I don't think so. I think she's done some stuff, though.
Yeah, she did some stuff, but she came into the audition for Tinkerbell, and they had them play around with the scene where Tinkerbell goes on top of the hand mirror, and then she is looking at herself, admiring herself, but then she sees her hips, and she's upset with how large they are, and she put her hands on her hips, and then she brought them up and measured them, and she says that's what got her the part. So
that's amazing. I didn't know that.
So I guess they liked her creativity, where she wasn't just like, oh, my hips are too big, but she actually measured them, and that made it into the movie.
Well, that's super cartoony, you know, and especially with a character like Tinkerbell that has to be all pantomime, you know?
Yeah.
She doesn't say a single word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really amazing how you always know what Tinkerbell is thinking.
Yeah, it's almost honestly, I think I almost thought she spoke because of how much you know what's going on in her head, you know?
Right.
I think it's also interesting. So she was kind of the first character that kind of well, I'm Alice a little bit, but kind of not. But she kind of diverged from the female, I don't know, what do you call it? The ideal that Disney had kind of set up. That kind of nice, sweet, earnest character. She kind of broke that mold a little bit, which was actually kind of hard for some of the guy artists and things were a little concerned about that, but they got over it. There was one guy, for example, in a storyboard meeting who was like, why does she have to be so naughty? And they thought she was too curvy and too bold and all those things. But luckily, we got the Tinkerbell we wanted. Mark Davies really, I think, fought for that.
Yeah. So thank goodness. Otherwise, we wouldn't have Tinkerbell.
I know.
As she is today.
She's perfect
and
the way she is.
She is perfect. Yeah, so actually, her wings took quite a bit of special effects.
Oh, that's right.
You might say. Because it's hard to get like how do you make something look transparent?
Right. Because it has to have some sort of opaqueness.
There has to be some sort of substance.
Yeah.
Yeah. There, but it can't just be, So it has to be totally transparent. So what they had to get special paint that was made from the bile of Asian ox. What's the plural of ox?
Oxen?
Oxes?
Oxen? I don't know.
In the woods is in the boxes in the whatever, however that.
Oh my gosh, I have no idea.
Comedy skit goes. Anyways, I don't know. I totally blanked on I was oxes. I couldn't think. Anyways, so apparently this paint just had the right look for fairy wings. They actually used it in Fantasia as well, but apparently it smelled super bad.
Yeah.
And so nobody was ever happy when they had to.
They kept it in a fridge, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. They're like, okay, you have to do an hour of this. And you have to think how many cells of animation you have to paint with this. How many scenes are Tinkerbell in, and how many shots of that are there to make up that scene? I mean, that's a lot of handling of that stupid ox paint.
Yeah, you know what I was thinking when I was watching it? The scene where they dump the pixie dust.
Oh, yeah.
On them. I was like, oh, that must have taken forever.
Yeah, because they also applied it to everything the pixie dust touched, right? Or the pixie dust had to have it. Yeah. And you have to think, too, every single sparkle of pixie dust, that's hand-drawn.
Yeah. It's crazy just to remember that every once in a while that it was all hand-drawn.
Yeah. That's so crazy. But yeah, and one of the things
What was it? I remember we knew the number at one point, but how many frames are in 1 second? Isn't it something like 20? I think it's like...
I thought it was 40.
40 frames a second? We'll have to look it up
I'll have to look it up again. But another cool thing about Tinkerbell is actually to do with Disneyland. So Disneyland's kind of being made right now, so I think this is a good time to talk about it anyway. But so Walt was working on Disneyland, and everyone was thinking that Disneyland was going to fail. So they wanted to distance the Disney company from Disneyland, the company. And so they were kind of two separate entities. And Walt wanted to use Mickey Mouse and Minnie and all of his staple, the Fab Five, and they were like, don't attach the Fab Five to some failed venture, basically. They're like, we don't want them to go down with this ship. So can you use other characters? And so Walt kind of went back through his characters that he'd come up with, with the animators. And he was like, well, how about I use Jiminy Cricket and Tinkerbell? And so that's why at Disneyland, you'll see Tinkerbell and Jiminy Cricket everywhere, because they were Disneyland. They were the characters that invited you to Disneyland, that talked about Disneyland. You know what I mean? And so in some ways, we wouldn't be, I don't think, as attached to Tinkerbell and Jiminy Cricket without Disneyland. Yeah.
Disneyland was a really crazy venture. I don't... If I was Walt's brother, because his brother was in charge of the more of the business side of things, right?
Yeah.
I would have been going, this is such a bad idea.
Such a terrible idea.
And then it worked. It's so crazy.
Oh my gosh.
The thing is, I feel like Walt, he's always 2 steps away from the finishing the project, and then he goes, this wasn't a good idea. But then usually it works out anyway. So yeah, exactly. There you go.
He gets to the end and it doesn't work out.
There you go.
Oh my gosh. But of course, as we all know, not everything is good about Peter Pan.
It's time to address the elephant in the room.
Oh my gosh. So if you haven't watched Peter Pan recently, then you might have forgotten that it's super racist.
Yes.
Yes.
I was definitely very surprised when I watched it.
Honestly, I was really mad. Because
I was mad too.
Because I loved Peter Pan. And so, I mean, like, when I go to Disneyland, that's all, I just look for that kind of memorabilia. And I won't say that I don't love aspects of it still and everything, but I was shocked at how, because I knew there's that scene, the really terrible scene with the song, which I don't even like to say the name of because it's super racist.
It makes you feel uncomfortable to even say the name.
Yes, to say the name of the song. But honestly, it's all throughout the piece. These the references to Native Americans, you know, being less than or using racial slurs or just stereotypes is just all throughout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing I was most disappointed about, because I was expecting the song. I wasn't expecting like the heavy dosage of racism throughout the entire time in Neverland.
Yeah, through like the whole like we're following the leader, because like I sing that song on like sing-along songs and stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But of course, like as a kid you don't know what you're doing anyway. But like, yeah, it's not good. I mean, first of all, they call them Indians through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and then also they're like totally the Native Americans in the show are totally separated from any sort of individual tribe. They're just a total stereotype of everything a white man at this time would have thought was Native American.
I tried to watch and read as many things as I could about this so that I would know more. And that was one of the things that when they asked Native American people what they thought about this, they're like, well, it's every stereotype. There's no certain tribe being represented here. They have totem poles, teepees, feathers. And the feathers, you know, they're ceremonial. They're not using them all the time. It's not like what they wear anyway. So like it's every stereotype. There's the speech that's not, you know, what is the word for it? It's like hesitant speech anyway, but they're not saying full words, right? And
they're speaking kind of
and then they made their skin literally sunburn red.
I know, it was really bad.
It's really bad. And to be fair, or I don't even know if fair is the word, frank, I mean, the story itself, the book itself, the play itself had that in it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they have the same problem with the Blair stage play. So when I was reading articles, they were talking about changing songs in those plays, and they're actually making a new Peter Pan play where Tiger Lily plays a much larger part, where she kind of criticizes Peter Pan for always going and trying to find different stories from different people in the mainland, but not wanting to learn about the stories of her people. Yeah,
she's like, you go and you collect all these stories, but you've never once asked me like the story of my people here, which you have to think, okay, here's one of the things that boggles my mind. First of all, they're on Neverland. In some ways, they don't even have to connect to any Native American tribe at all. They're the natives of Neverland, right?
Yeah.
So they could be inspired by, you know, I don't know, but I don't know how you would do it. You should ask people and do research and figure out how you should do it. But I won't pretend that I know how you should do it. But it's just crazy that they would have to even include that because they're the natives of Neverland, and they should be really interesting. And it just bothers me so much that like the implication is that the Lost Boys are sometimes smarter than them, these grown people.
And like Peter Pan is kind of their hero in a way.
Yeah, that's super.
Like they look up to him, like this kid, you know.
Yeah, they call him the Great Chief.
It just felt very white supremacist.
Yeah,
like,
white savior.
What do they call it? Like, white savior.
Yeah.
In a couple moments, and I don't know. It was just very uncomfortable watching it.
I could feel myself slowly boiling inside. And so I really yeah.
So it's interesting when Peter Pan first came out on Disney Plus, they did have a warning before watching it. You know how they have like a description and some of the movies have warnings. But the warning didn't include anything about the racism in it. It just said, oh, warning, there's use of tobacco in this film.
That's all mine said still.
Oh, that's what it said still?
When I started it, that's all it said.
Oh, okay. So when I was reading this article and they said that, well, maybe I read it wrong. Maybe they're going to change it to something else. But the article said that they were going to change it to this. This program is presented as originally created. It may contain outdated cultural depictions. So the article I was reading was also criticizing this because it's so vague. It's not really getting to the point at all about why it's still being shown the way it was and what is being what is offensive about it. And so they shared a similar description of Tom and Jerry cartoons. So they released them, and they knew that some of the things in those cartoons were insensitive as well. But their warnings, they say, while these cartoons do not represent today's society, they are being presented as they were originally created, because to do otherwise would be the same as claiming these prejudices never existed.
Yeah. And
I think that would be a really good thing for Disney. They don't have to say that verbatim, of course, but something in those lines.
Right.
Because I was actually surprised. I expected to look this up, I expected people to want it to just not be shown at all.
Right. Like Song of the South, delete it.
Like Song of the South. Yeah. And I thought I heard recently that they took the Native American tribe out of the Peter Pan ride.
Oh, did they?
Am I right about that?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. So I thought that's what people were going to suggest about, like, how can we fix this? We take it out or stop showing Peter Pan.
Yeah.
But I was actually surprised and for me pleasantly surprised that people actually wanted it to keep being shown, because they thought they said it could be a really good way to teach.
Yeah, well, I agree. I mean, you
teach
could
your kids or teach.
You could decide.
People.
You could decide. I could see someone deciding, I don't really want to show this to my kids. I mean, everyone has their own thing. The only, whatever their tolerance level or whatever they want to do. I think personally, I would rather do the latter of showing my kids it and then talking about it and being like, why do you think this is wrong? And talking about like why that might be a bad thing. And it's kind of a more innocent movie to present that idea with. Like, look, these prejudices existed. They happened.
Right.
We have to be better, and we have to, really know about these things and treat people with respect. Yeah. And love.
Yeah. And I think they're right to say that we shouldn't pretend like they never happened.
I agree. But yeah, so there's nothing to sugarcoat that. That's exactly what happened. And very disappointing.
Yeah, it was disappointing.
Yeah, that was very disappointing. Yeah. I had lots of feelings. But the reception of Peter Pan at the time, when obviously these things were not prevalent, was very warm. So it premiered in 1953. And there was a quote that I found from someone who talked about when it came out. And it came out in February, like I said, and it said it was a raw, wintry day, but nevertheless, the lines of people waiting to get in and see Peter Pan extended around the very long block. I saw smiles of anticipation on the faces of adults and children alike. I knew for sure that the dark days of Disney were past and the studio had no place to go but up. Peter Pan turned out to be a smashing success at the box office, so people loved it. Unlike Alice. They didn't like it. It is a more well put together story, I will say.
I wonder how much expectation had to do with that, though. Because, I mean, Disney really had its first, bad film. Yeah. Alice in Wonderland. And I think a lot of people felt betrayed. And so they didn't hold Disney to the same standard anymore. And then he comes out and he puts out a film that is just as magical to them as,
right,
Cinderella was.
Well, and it's very, and
they're like, oh wow, I think they were more surprised,
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, and over the years, adjusted for inflation, Peter Pan has brought in $362 million to the studio, making it the 111th most successful film of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how...
that's a pretty good income.
Yeah, that's a pretty good, that's a pretty good take on it.
I wonder what 4 million is adjusted to inflation. It's probably something like 25 million, 30 million. So it's still like 10 times.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yep.
That's pretty good. It's funny though, because I was reading one of these books and I'm pretty sure the books are made by the Disney company because they have the Disney logo on them and stuff.
Yeah.
But anyways, I was looking through these books trying to find every single place where it references Peter Pan, the movie.
Mm-hmm. And
I found this one page where it took me to a picture, which usually doesn't have anything about the movie on it, but in this case, it had a little description under it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's basically like Peter saying, this pictures from Peter Pan, and what it says is, Disney's version of Peter Pan, 1953. It's a generally entertaining interpretation of Sir James Barrie's stage classic. I just thought that was so funny.
Yes. Like, they're already trying to be like, oh, there's things that we're not pleased with in this.
It's generally entertaining.
Generally entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's how Peter Pan was made.
Yeah.
And obviously we watched it recently. Me and Jonah both did. In our respective places of residence.
Yes.
Me in between opera rehearsals.
Yes. So here's what we thought of it today. I mean, we already talked about the cringy stuff.
Yeah. But that didn't come in right away. So I will say, film opens and it's perfect for like the first 25 minutes. Or nearly perfect.
It's really great.
I'm pretty sure Michael still makes one comment, but
Yeah. The poor Nana thing and the whole family dynamic, I think, is just worked really well for me.
Yes.
And
I have to admit, I have definitely been the dad before, where you're like, "Where's my shirt? Where's my stuff?" and just so like you're just so frazzled, and everyone around you is like, I don't know. I definitely feel like I've been the dad before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you really like Wendy, and I love that voice actress's voice.
Me too.
I think it's just really great. And I mean, she's not as beloved for some reason. Like, Wendy's not as beloved as Peter Pan is.
But that doesn't make sense to
or
me.
Captain Hook, but like, Wendy's an awesome character.
I agree.
She tells great stories. She's an awesome
She wants to go on adventures.
Of her younger brothers, but she's also super let's go, let's learn how to fly, you know, going with the flow.
Okay, can I just say something about the beginning?
Yeah, go ahead.
It bothers me no, you can't do it. Oh, okay. Sorry. I'll just be quiet now.
Okay.
No, so the part where the dad comes in, I had never noticed this till this time. So dad comes in, Michael and John are like jumping on the bed, and like they've torn a sheet in half with their wooden swords, and they're just like going at it. You know what I mean? And they're the ones who wrote on the dad's shirts. They're the ones who took his cufflinks. They're the ones who were doing all these things. And yet, when this happens, who gets in trouble? Wendy. Wendy gets in trouble for telling them the stories. And I'm like, are you kidding me? It's the boy's fault. So it almost implies like, oh, they can't control themselves. They're just boys or something. I don't know. It bugged me so much.
Yeah.
I was like, why is Wendy getting in trouble?
Yeah. That's true. I didn't even notice that, but that's really true.
Yeah, it was just funny.
That's
I was
really
just
true.
like, why is Wendy getting in trouble for this? Wendy has to leave the nursery because the boys are being dumb. Cracked me up.
Of course, I love Nana I'm a big sucker for any animal in a movie. I'm like, I love them. They're my favorite character. And I wish that Nana had come with them. After I read that Nana in some of the storyboards had come with them to Neverland, I was like, dang it, if she just hadn't been such a good dog and had the rope in her mouth when the dad kicked her out, she could have gone with them. That
hurts my heart when she's holding the rope in her mouth and the dad is like, thanks. You can tell everyone's uncomfortable with this situation. Although Nana, honestly, sort of when the dad's pulling Nana out, she kind of looks like, I'm ready for a break from these kids.
Yeah, that's true. She seemed pretty exasperated.
And she put up that block tower over and over again.
She was amazing at that.
I know.
She was like 3 bricks at a time. I can't do 3 bricks at a time.
I know.
And I have 2 hands.
Even if I had to like pick up 1 block in my mouth and put it on a tower, I don't think I could do it.
No, she's a very talented dog.
You guys, let us know if you can do it at home. Try it at home. Take a video. I want to know if you can make the tower.
We should have a mouth block stacking competition.
Yes, definitely. We'll set this up.
I'll do it, and then you'll do it with the same blocks.
We'll take videos, and then we'll see if anyone else can make it faster.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, by the way, when does the second star to the right happen?
What do you mean? She says...
The second star to the right.
Says, here we go. Well, when they're on the clock tower, he says, there it is, second star to the right, and straight on till morning.
No, I'm talking about the song. The second star to the right.
When they're flying, that whole time they're singing that song.
No, they're singing the... Think of a wonderful thought.
The second star to the right. It's the same song, Jonah. You're just singing different parts of the song.
You can fly, you can fly, you can fly. No, it's you can fly. It's not the second star to the right.
It's the same song, isn't it? The second star to the right shines in the light for me. Gosh, I hate it when you're right. I
don't think it's in
I swear that's part of that scene, though. Like, maybe it goes from you can fly into second star on the right. Are you sure?
I was waiting for it. It didn't happen.
That's going to drive me crazy. Maybe it's just during then the, maybe it's the end, or maybe during the credits.
It might, so I wasn't really paying attention during the credits at the beginning, so I may have been playing during that time.
That's possible. I think maybe that's what it is. That's funny. I didn't even notice. Oh, one of my other, I just lost it. Never mind. I was going to say there was another favorite part I wanted to talk about, but I can't remember what it was.
I love the shadow.
Oh, yes.
And sewing it. She's like, oh, Peter, you can't get the shadow on with a bar of soap. Let me sew it on.
I know.
Like, that makes more sense.
And then he's such a jerk, and he is like, girls talk too much. And you're like, get over yourself, Peter. Get over yourself.
I know.
Because all you like to do is hear yourself talk. Let's be honest.
That's why he's like, kidnap children.
So he can be the leader.
Rule over them.
Ugh. I know.
Oh my goodness.
For me, I have a up and down relationship with Peter throughout the movie. Half the time I'm like, you jerk, and the other half the time I'm like, oh, so magical.
Yeah. I mean, the whole flying scene is really amazing, and they get to Neverland, and I was really shocked by a lot of things. One was how much I enjoyed Captain Hook and Smee.
They are
the best.
They're
how
so
like
funny.
that guy is singing that kind of operatic song with the accordion, and then he points the gun and he shoots him. First I'm like, wow, that's pretty violent, but then also that's so funny.
I love Smee. Smee is like, well, did you hear what Smee said at that? He's like, I'm shooting a man in the middle of his cadenza.
Cadenza. Bad form. Bad form.
And I have to say it. So
I know.
In opera, cadenza's like, like the fancy part at the end of an aria or a song. And anyway, it just made me laugh really hard.
Yeah, that is really funny. I laughed at that too.
I laughed really hard.
Oh, and when he shaves him, but he ends up shaving the butt of that bird.
Yes.
When I was a kid, that really freaked me out because I'm like, I feel like I'm seeing something that's inappropriate, like the butt of a naked bird. And I know, even when I watch it now, I know that there's like it's a bird, and I see like naked birds all the time cooked in front of me while I'm eating them. But
thank you for putting
it's still like I watch it. It still makes me feel uncomfortable. I'm like, that bird's naked.
That bird's naked. I love the part where he goes and he picks up the head. He's like, oh, here it is. He starts pulling.
Yeah.
Smee my other favorite part of that, is where Smee's talking to him and is like, Captain, you have to get over this Peter Pan thing because, like, you know, it's just like a childhood prank. You know, he cut off your hand, but that was just a childhood prank. So that's funny in itself that he's just like, it's just a prank, get over it. But then Captain Hook agrees with him and he's like, yeah, I know. He's like, but then he fed it to a crocodile and that crocodile wants to eat all of me now. And that's what I can't forget, basically. He doesn't say it in these words, but like that's what they say. And I'm just like, what a weird code of conduct these pirates have.
They're so weird.
Cutting off a hand, childhood prank. Feeding it to a crocodile, revenge
that's
worthy.
Not okay.
Yeah.
Right, that's not okay. Oh my gosh. There's so many, like, just... Okay, here's what I would say about Peter Pan, though, is that there are moments that are just...
Absolute gems.
So amazing and, like, magical, and very few things can make you feel as nostalgic. But, like, as a whole, I feel like the movie's not quite as good as the moments inside of it.
Well, here's my problem with Peter Pan, is that so one thing that I find very fulfilling in a movie is for there to be, like, a character arc. And the thing is, like, who in this film learns something? Honestly, in some ways, the one you can emotionally connect to the most is Captain Hook, because you feel bad for him. He has a clear goal. He has something he wants. He keeps getting thwarted. He tries new tactics to get what he wants. And honestly, there were some moments when I'm like, Peter is sociopath or something. Like, when he's going to throw Captain Hook to the alligator. And even Wendy's like, Peter, he's going to die. Him. You're going to kill him.
Yeah. But Peter Pan doesn't think about consequences.
He doesn't think about consequences. And I get that. Like, it's a kid thing. But it's still like, he's an old kid. Like, he's been a kid forever. Anyway, it's just a whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading this article and I was thinking about it myself. And a lot of the Peter Pan kind of suffers, I think, because there's too many characters in it. The movie's only 77 minutes long, so it's less than an hour and a half long. And you have the three kids, Peter Pan, the parents, Captain Hook, Smee, the Lost Boys, the Native American tribe, Tiger Lily. You have, like, almost 30 characters.
Yeah.
And so none of them ever really get a whole story arc for themselves. So I'd say probably Captain Hook and Tinkerbell
and Wendy
have the best story.
Are the closest.
Wendy has a pretty good story arc, but for me, she jumps pretty quickly to I'm having a good time to I hate this. So I wish there was more of I'm enjoying the adventure, and then the mermaids are just being terrible to her. Peter Pan is flirting with another girl, and I don't get to participate in the party because I'm a woman and I have to go get firewood.
Yeah. But you don't want to be part of that racist party, Wendy. Yeah. Walk away.
That was... Yeah, that's right. Walk away.
Walk away.
You know, so I wish there was, like, maybe one more experience with Wendy that maybe drew her closer to Peter Pan as well.
Right.
But well, Tinkerbell
is that I feel like clear. She, if anything, is given evidence that Peter Pan is terrible. She's given more evidence of that than anything else. It's only at the very end that he kind of redeems himself by saving them, and then he also, like, agrees to take them home. But, like, before that, basically everything he does is not great. He puts them in danger. He... You know, just all these things. He's like, what are you reacting about with the mermaids? And they're like, we were just trying to drown her. I don't know why she's so upset. I mean...
And he's like, see, they were just having fun.
They were just having fun. Why don't you just calm down a little? And you're like, ugh. But you know what I do find with Wendy, and I don't know if this is like the point of the movie, is I do feel like it kind of showed me that there are good things and bad things about growing up, right? The good thing is that you're like Wendy and you understand that there are consequences and there are, connections you can make with people, that you just don't get as much when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, Peter Pan is the antagonist of his own movie.
Yeah, it's true.
He's stopping Captain Hook from getting what he wants. He's stopping Wendy and her brothers from growing up and improving themselves.
And the Lost Boys, too.
I thought the brothers and the Lost Boys had a much bigger part.
Yeah.
They have almost no part.
Yeah. They're almost not. I forgot about them. Other than I do love Michael. He actually reminds me a bit of you. So, when you were a kid.
Of me?
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, he's just so cute. And sweet.
But yeah, they're pretty flat characters. They don't really grow.
But like I said, I was happy whenever Captain Hook was on screen. I was like, yes, bring Captain Hook back.
Probably the best scene in the whole movie is when they're tricking Tinkerbell to tell them where the hideout is.
That's a good one. I love that scene.
It's a really, really good scene. And then, of course,
another evidence that Peter Pan is horrible, he cut off the hand of someone who plays the piano.
Oh, yeah. But you know what? That didn't hinder him that much.
No, he was really good at it.
Yeah. The trill with the hook, that's what really got me.
I love that.
But then, of course, the most magical moment in the whole movie is when the whole ship turns gold.
Yeah. Yeah, and just that, like, Peter volunteers to take them back. And there's kind of this, I don't know, I think Tinkerbell's kind of come full circle on the whole, like, I don't think she hates Wendy anymore.
Yeah.
That always kind of, that bothered me, especially this time. I was like, I want Wendy and Tinkerbell to be friends.
Oh, also I want to say, I love how noble Wendy is walking the plank.
Oh, yes.
She's like, I'm walking the plank, and I am right.
Yes. And she convinces all of the Lost Boys to be brave and noble as well. She's a very strong character.
Yeah.
First of all, she's a leader. She's like the she's the mirror to Peter, right? Where Peter's like childhood and chaos, and then Wendy's like, well, yeah, but we love our mom, and we have to be sensible in some ways, but also brave and noble.
That's a mother.
Can I admit that I really love that song? And I got just like a little bit. And mine. So pretty.
I don't know the words that well. But.
Your mother and mine, I think, is the main part of it. But also her voice has improved a lot. Catherine Beaumont, I thought.
Is it the same person?
Yeah. They said it improved a lot.
What? That's her?
That's her. She worked hard
to sing
that song.
Yeah, she nailed it.
She nailed it. She did a really good job. And I love all the like pirates like weeping over their mother.
Yes. The pirates were really fun.
Another scene that really gets me every time, actually, is when Tinkerbell comes back and saves Peter Pan from the bomb.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and she like tries to pull out his hand, and then she like gets hurt. And then Peter Pan's like, I have to, she's like, you gotta go save Wendy, basically, And he's like, I can't do it without you. You're the most important person in my life. Like, maybe it's just because Peter never shows, and he sort of like chinks in his armor, and all of a sudden he's sad and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Peter Pan does have a soul.
Yeah, he definitely seems like the character that wouldn't do that,
Yeah.
But because he's like a kid, but he's also like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when he does break down, it's kind of like the same thing with Spider-Man. He's a superhero, but he's also so vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like when Peter agrees to not fly during the final battle.
Yeah.
It's his own childishness that gets him almost killed, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, Mary does... Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah, no, just like, I also love the last scene with the mom and dad. First of all, also though, why did the mom and dad leave their children in bed and go to a party?
Yeah, that does seem strange, especially since they locked the dog outside of the house.
Yeah. Bad timing, Dad. Just saying. And they left the window unlocked.
Yeah, because Wendy said, leave it open. I've been seeing a shadow outside my window.
I've been seeing Peter Pan's out there. You're like, okay, honey, click, lock the door window. Anyway, yeah. I know it's another time and everything, but there was a part of me that was like, you can't leave and go to a party while your children are in bed. You have to leave someone to, like, watch over them. Plus, you don't even have a cell phone. They can't even call you.
I mean, I kind of imagine Wendy, like,
is
13.
old enough to kind of be the leader.
Yeah.
I could see that.
12 or 13. Yeah.
Okay.
You babysat us when you were 13.
Yeah. Okay. I can get behind that. Maybe Wendy's just responsible enough to be whatever. But yeah, I love the last scene with her dad, where her dad's like trying to apologize, because I think that's another reason I just love that voice actor. It's so vulnerable to be like, Wendy, I'm sorry, I overreacted, you know? And
yeah, you don't have to leave the nursery.
Yeah.
But I think Wendy at that point has decided, like, that's okay.
I'm kind of ready. It's kind of both, right? She's like, you don't have to grow up fast. I think that was kind of the end thing, right? It was like, yeah, you eventually have to grow up, but you don't have to, like, speed towards it. And there is goodness in childhood. I think that the ending is so mysterious. With the dad being like, I feel like I have seen that ship before. Long time ago.
Was he a lost boy?
Exactly. Was he a lost boy? And even the mother, whenever she talks about Peter Pan, seems to, like, know who he is. And of course the implication for some people think that it was all in her imagination, that none of it actually happened.
No, it happened.
I think it happened. I mean, that's why the ship's there. Me too. But yeah, I love the end with just kind of that feeling of, yeah. But like you said, it like has those moments. How about for you, Jonah? Did it hold up for you?
Against my jaded adult life?
Does it hold up for you?
Man, we're kind of on a roll here, but I gotta say no. Just because of all of the racist things in this movie. It was hard to watch a lot of it.
Yeah.
And so I think in today's society where we know better, it's hard. It just doesn't.
It doesn't hold up. I agree. Like I said, I had a lot of angry feelings watching it. I was angry because I do love parts of the movie so much. But really, the other parts made it painful to watch the movie at all. And I was like, that's so unfortunate. And I'm angry about it still. And someone now, I'm a little emotional about it.
I'm so sorry, Mary.
It's okay. I was really excited about Peter Pan, and I had forgotten entirely about, like, the racist parts. And when I was like, I don't know, I was surfing the internet and I saw something about it, and I was like, oh no, I forgot about that aspect of Peter Pan. Because honestly, I just think about Tinkerbell and Peter Pan, Captain Hook, that kind of thing. And I just didn't even think about that aspect. And I was like, no, I was already sad. And then watching it, I was like, it's everywhere.
It was like worse than you even thought.
It's like thinking you're going to eat a beautiful cheesecake that you've saved in the fridge, and then finding out the whole thing has mold throughout it. You can't even eat any bite of it because it's just pervasive.
It's all moldy.
Yes. So
it doesn't
hold up. It's really unfortunate, and it makes me sad about everything. But hopefully, here's the ray of hope, is that hopefully someone will make a version that can be magical for everyone, right?
Yeah.
It's a story that can still be told. It can be told again, and told better, with all the same, magical aspects of all these characters, and Never Never Land, and Never Growing Up, and childhood, which is something that everyone can get behind. But I think, Disney's doing a new live action. Maybe that one will be better. We can always hope. But hopefully someone can make a version.
If it follows the pattern of the live actions...
Then no.
Then it's not going to be better.
I hope. I don't think, but I hope that they'll be able to make one that can be magical for everyone and not make, all of us really groan inside and not be able to get behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for listening. That's Peter Pan.
This is Peter Pan. That was our episode this week. Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. Go ahead and send us an email with all of your thoughts and feelings and all of that at realrecollectionspodcast@gmail.com. You'll notice that we have a new logo.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not you Apple podcasters, actually, because Mary's having a really hard time getting the logo to change on Apple Podcasts. We're working on it. But if you go to Spotify or our website, realrecollectionspodcast.com, you'll see that we did a special logo for our Disney season.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's great. And we've been loving to see your reviews and your...
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, so we really appreciate that and you guys, and please feel free to, let us know any suggestions you have or stories that you have about these movies.
Yeah, what things you want to see in our later seasons after we're done with Disney's animated stuff. We just want to hear from you. We want to hear your voices.
We appreciate you and have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.